Hi, if you're just joining us, this is LifeBites Live, and this is a wonderful bonus feature part of the show as we talk about the movie Marley, the documentary that's coming out on April 20th, 420 for all you insiders, if you know what I mean. So with me is Roger Steffens. He's probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Marley fan, but he also has one of the largest collections of Bob Marley and reggae memorabilia in the world. So welcome to the show and the bonus feature here on LifeBites Live. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Nita. Thanks for having me.
So what did you think about the film and the making of this film? Do you think they're right on in terms of how they made it?
Interesting question. I worked on the previous version of the film with Jonathan Demme, which was ultimately rejected. So this is the third attempt at making a really definitive documentary, and I think he got, the director Kevin MacDonald got a whole lot of things right. He has juxtaposed certain contradictory opinions side by side, so you get an idea that some of the things that people have been told are not necessarily based on fact. And he's talked to a lot of the absolute major people in Bob Marley's life. And it's a 2.5-hour run through one of the most extraordinary lives of the 20th century, the life of the man that I consider to be the musical artist of the 20th century.
So let's talk about this. Carlos Santana says that if Bob Marley is Jesus in these times, Roger Steffens is Peter. Also, Stephen Davis, author of Reggae Bloodlines, he says that Roger Steffens has done more to preserve the myth of Bob Marley than anyone else in the world.
Well, actually, that was Chris Blackwell,
Chris
the owner of
Blackwell.
Island Records.
Yeah. I used to work with Chris. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Yeah, he said that at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I resented it. Because I'm not trying to preserve a myth, I'm trying to preserve the truth.
Given the fact that you were such a big fan, how did you become one?
I read an article in Rolling Stone in 1973 that introduced reggae to America, and the writer said, reggae music crawls into your bloodstream like some vampire amoeba from the psychic rapids of Upper Niger consciousness. I said, I don't know what that means, but I gotta find it. And I went out that night, I was living in Berkeley, and I found a used copy of Catch a Fire, Bob's first American album, and saw The Harder They Come, the great reggae movie, the following evening, and bought the soundtrack on the way home, and my life changed forever. And then 5 years later, I was taken backstage in Santa Cruz, and I met Bob Marley, and a year after that, I had just started here in Los Angeles on the NPR station, KCRW, a new show called The Reggae Beat. And we were on the air for about 6 weeks when Island Records called us up and said, would you mind going on the road for 2 weeks with Bob Marley?
Oh, well, would you mind?
Yeah.
Twist my arm.
So I got to do that, and we became friends, and I set up a couple of evenings where he saw films about the assassination attempt on his life in '76 and the peace concert in '78 when he returned from exile, and it just kept building and building from there.
This is something that you shot. This is actually a picture of Bob Marley. This is one of your collectibles.
Oh, it is. I photographed him in the San Diego Sports Arena dressing room on November 24th, '79, prior to his show there. And I call that particular shot the Rasta Thinker, because how many people can you just see the hair and know exactly who it is? So in 2001, the Queen Mary mounted a major exhibition of my reggae archives. They took 6,000 things out of the house and framed them, and it ran for 8 months in 2001, and that book is the catalog for it. It has about 1,600 illustrations in it, including some extraordinary memorabilia of Bob Marley from around the world. Polish flexi-disc postcards, which is how they smuggled his music past the censors in communist Poland, and Hungarian phone cards with his picture on them, and Mongolian postage stamps, and Cayman Island coins with his image on it. He's everywhere in the world today.
So let me ask you a question. Given the fact that he has such a huge impact, and people that don't even really know his music because he is, knows his music but not him, what do you think his message to the world would be today?
To reduce it to the basic, it's one love. It's one heart, one aim, one God, one destiny, oneness. It's as the poet E. E. Cummings said, one's not half two, it's two are halves of one. And that was the message that Bob preached everywhere. And it drove Chris Blackwell and the people at Island Records crazy, because when Bob would put out a new album, Chris would throw a press conference, and instead of talking about the new record, Bob would talk about Rastafari and preach the necessity for understanding that Haile Selassie is God incarnate in these times as a living man, and until the earth recognizes that, everywhere will be war.
So Roger, as a last question, if you were to sum up Bob Marley in 1 or 2 or maybe 3 words, what would they be?
Disciplined and extraordinarily generous. He supported over 6,000 people a month.
Wow.
Through his charity. He kept 6,000 people alive every month. And he was eminently approachable, too. He was not the superstar that we see today.
And if you had a message for the world, what would it be, real quickly?
Aim high. Or as my friend Carlos Santana, who now says he's the second biggest Bob Marley fan in the world, don't do anything in life before you ask yourself this question: how is this going to make the world a better place?
Well, thank you so much again for being on the show with us and giving us a little insight into the man himself, the more human side. So thanks again.
One love.
One love.